Peace,
What's
peace. Y'all
up,
can hear
man?
me?
Yeah, we hear you pretty
Yes,
good, man.
sir.
Thank you
Yes,
for
sir.
joining the show, man. We got a couple questions for you. I know Leroy want to talk to you about,
Absolutely.
what you're doing in the education space, and I kind of elaborate. The last thing you did post was that you wanted to make a distinction that you teach rap music. You teach rap or the science of rap, not hip hop. Well, you
Yeah,
want to
not hip hop.
elaborate on that a little bit to kind of let the audience know what that distinction is? I kind of have an idea, but I want you to explain it in your words, sir.
Yes,
Absolutely.
sir.
I've been thinking about that. Appreciate y'all for having me on, man.
Of
Um,
course.
I've been sneaking into people's live streams and chats the past like few days, like
Right.
popping up on. But make sure I hit the like, support the channel, and send them super chats. You feel
Yeah.
me?
No,
People,
I respect that. I respect that, Lupe, that you speaking on behalf of what you're doing. You're not just leaving it out there, but you're actually speaking like, look, I'm at MIT, I'm doing this. I'm going to John Hopkins, I'm doing this. Like, no, I appreciate that because we need to hear that directly from, you or people that are involved in different things. So salute for that. You know what
and as it should be. I think that I'm gonna get into the questions, but I think that this new era of kind of YouTube streaming podcasters, I think that they should have a little bit more confidence that the people that they're speaking on, that they're able to reach out to them, and that those people will be willing to kind of talk to them, as opposed to just kind of like platforming based off either assumption or just like a review or a reaction to a reaction to a reaction. It's like, nah, I mean, if you approach people in a certain way, you'll get a response out of them, and maybe sometimes it's negative, or maybe in this case it's something that's neutral.
I mean?
Um,
Right.
so anyway, first shout to Daylight. Daylight's in Sosa.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, oh
I
yeah,
didn't
that's
know that.
right.
Okay,
That's right.
okay,
Yeah.
okay.
No, that's
uh,
right. For sure.
Absol is in Sosa. IT.
Yeah. Hey,
The IT.
I'm with Pendulum, you know?
Yeah, Pendulum Inc. There's a few members of Sosa and Pendulum. Well, Chill IT is Sosa. Mickey Fax IT is Sosa. I remember when they first started
Yes.
Pendulum. Chill actually came and spoke in my class at MIT as well. He's based in Massachusetts, in Boston.
Brother. Yeah.
So anyway, to the question. So the metaphor that I would give it to make it the most sense to analog is, okay, so say there's a class on video games, right? Just
Right,
video games.
Right.
Then there's a class on PlayStation 5, right?
right,
Two
Mm-hmm.
separate classes. Then there's another class on Call of Duty, right?
Right.
Call of Duty,
Okay.
right?
Right. Got you.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Distinction between hip hop and rap. So video games is all video games. It's all of the different consoles. It's the history. It's all of the people who developed it. Maybe you might get into the code of how to build it. Maybe you get into the artwork, and you get into all of the code. You get into the conventions, the video game uh,
Right.
competitions. You get into that whole complex, right? Which requires somebody who, if they're teaching it at the level at the institutions that I teach at, and there's no disrespect to people teaching it at various capacities, at the levels that
Mm-hmm.
I teach at, the person who teaches video games has to have immense amounts of knowledge about video games, right? The
Right.
culture of
Mm-hmm.
video games, all the people, the timeline of it, all of those pieces. Now, that's different if somebody's teaching PlayStation 5, right? Yes, PlayStation 5 is a video game, but you don't necessarily need to know that whole complex. Like, you're not talking about Atari and TurboGrafx 16
Right.
and Super. Yeah, it's all you talking about PlayStation 5, very specific, right? A level
Right.
below that, and you would expect somebody who teaches PlayStation 5 to be an expert in PlayStation 5. Okay. Call
Mm-hmm.
of Duty is separate. It's a video game. It's its own world, it's its own space, has its own rules. It's a first person shooter. It's very specific, right? It speaks to a very specific audience. There's a very
Right.
specific play the game. You don't need to know how to play Pac-Man in order to play Call of Duty, right? You don't need to have the history of video games to play Call of Duty or to teach Call of Duty. You just need to be really, really good at Call of Duty, right? Taking it back to hip hop and rap. I'm really, really good at
Mm-hmm.
Call of Duty. I'm not good at hip hop,
Right.
right? Hip hop's way too big.
Got
It
you.
has too many components in it. It has all types of histories and people. You got to be able to speak to all the different regions, nationally and internationally, all of the functions, the business, all of those kind of pieces and parts, which I'm aware of but I don't have the confidence that I'll be able to walk into a classroom, right, in front of kids
Right.
who are, in some cases, kids are paying, hundreds of thousands of dollars with the expectation that they're going to get a world class, awareness of this particular subject matter. And I can't do that for hip hop, right? But I can
Right.
definitely rap. I can definitely do that for that very specific attribute, or how you want to call it, practice within the complex of hip hop, which has its own kind of constraints and rules. It's something that I've I do it on a daily basis. It's my primary job. I've achieved success in it at all the levels of it, from battling to being to selling records to, I'm one of the
Yeah.
reasons I was talking about Rap Genius earlier. I'm one of the reasons Rap Genius exists, right?
Right.
Yes. Yes.
Right.
The
Yes.
ground
Um.
floor, right? So even in those areas, and then now when you're looking at it, rap, even though it's kind of, there's other rappers who have led the charge. Shout out to Play from Kid and Play. Shout out to Bun B. Even shout out to Ninth Wonder. Shout out to people who've been in the academic spaces. Now I'm
Mm.
carrying, right, to push rap in its academic world, and there's a whole other piece behind. I could teach a course on rap as an academic practice, and not teach you how to write one verse. You feel me? So
Right.
I say I'll land on this. We get to another topic. I don't teach the culture of hip hop. I think it's too precious. I think it's too big, and I think I don't want to have to fight. Right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
Not because it started with such and such, and you got your facts wrong. But like, nah, it's like I'm not even interested. I have enough fights to deal with
Right. Right.
on my, as
That's a lot of
opposed.
fighting. Right. Yeah.
So so in terms of, but I'll give you a little bit of crossover, and this is from my course at MIT, and there's a difference between the course at MIT and the course at Johns Hopkins.
Right.
Um, the course at MIT, we do two classes that are about the history of styles, right?
Mm.
And I bring in a guy by the name of Kevin Beecham, who you all should know. Everybody in rap should know who Kevin Beecham is, even the fans. He's a rapper. He works at Rhyme Sayers. He has a marketing kind of piece there. But he is, when I asked Chino Excel, IT, rest in peace. Um,
Peace.
you know, we were looking for people who were thoroughly versed in just rap from a historical point of view, and just like, and in that you'll get some hip hop. But I'll kind of address what the crossover is.
Right.
Right.
He knows. Kevin Beecham wrote a book called The Encyclopedia of Rap. He didn't publish it. He's still kind of sitting on it. And it's every verse that was commercially released and some that weren't commercially released from 1979 to 1989,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
Every
Wow.
song, every verse from 1979 to 1989. He was going to do a
Wow.
second edition, which was 89 to 99. And then after that, he was like, it's just it's too many verses to kind of
Any.
keep up with. Be a billion pages long.
Yeah.
But there's a certain scarcity of verses between 1979 early 80s. It's not like it's millions and millions of verses. It's like a few thousand, right? In some cases a few hundred. In cases when it first started, it was a few. You maybe count them on one hand. So Kevin Beecham, we call him Kevin Beecham IR because he's also a member of Sosa. He can speak to, I'm saying this, to me it's fascinating. To you it might be like whatever, but I feel like y'all fuck
No,
with
it's
this rap.
fascinating.
No, no, no. We listening,
I'm
bro.
with you.
We with you. We with you.
I'm
He can
with you.
tell he can tell you the first person to ever use a ad lib on a track,
Mm.
All right.
right?
Yeah.
Like
Fire.
he's that micro with it, right?
Mm.
He can tell you the first person that did double time. He can tell you the first person, and he'll have like the whole. So anyway, he's just a resource and an archivist of rap, right? But he also raps, and he's really really good, right?
Yeah.
Being a practicer, practicing what you preach. So we do 2 days in my class where he comes in and we just teach. I sit in the audience, and he just teaches a chronological history of styles within rap, and he goes through every
Oh,
single style, right?
that's
So
fire. Yeah.
in that he'll provide context of what was happening, why that style emerged, what was it responding to, who was
Mm.
the person, what were they doing. So it's not just like this happened in 1970, this happened in 1982 on this record. He'll tell
Right.
you to the gritty. in that you're getting, I say all that to say that in that process, you're getting the story of hip hop. You get what I'm saying?
Right,
In a
right.
Right.
correct way. So I hesitate even with that, even though I know kids in my class are getting this kind of education of hip hop along the way as they learn about rap and learn and create their own raps. But I also am very, very adamant about saying like, hey, I don't teach hip hop. You know, I don't teach.
Right.
I don't.
I mean, it's too vast. It's too vast just for to put everything on one professor.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? But I do think it's very important that those things are covered because you see what I'm saying that when I said hip hop is more than just the rhymes and the music, even though
yeah,
that's very important. It encompasses a lot. You know what I mean? So that's where I think it branches out to not just Lupe Fiasco, but you open the door for many different subjects to be, studied and dissected and so forth.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
And there is a hip hop class at MIT that's been there for I think like 10 years.
Right.
Right?
Mm,
There's a
yeah.
turntable at MIT. There's a guy who teaches turntablism. But there's a hip hop class, and the guy who teaches that, when the class was first started at MIT, it was I forgot the name of the professor who started. He's not there anymore, but he came in, started this hip hop class, and he approached it from the purview of dance because he was a dancer. So it was more biased toward dance and hip hop, and that's
Right.
how he kind of tracked it. But it was a class about hip hop. So if the expectation was that you were going to go in that class and learn how to rap, it was like no, like you're gonna go into this class and kind of learn about run about hip hop through the lens of dancers. Not to say that he won't mention
Right.
rap because you mentioned graffiti, you mentioned turntablism, you mentioned some of the other kind of elements that are in there. But as of today, I share the hip hop space with a professor by the name of Professor McCurson, who is a choreographer, a dancer, a breaker, Boston based. He dances for all type of global artists and big artists and stuff like that. Black guy, he's Haitian, and he teaches a class on hip hop, and it's through dance. So he'll have part of his lecture
Right.
where he has kind of like a chronology of the start of hip hop, and he'll go through all kind of the high points and some of the low points all the way up through the 80s and 90s and into the 2000s to now. That's like half the class, and then the second half of the class you're learning how to break.
Mm.
Fire. That's
Interesting.
And
dope. Yeah.
his class is packed. Like he has like it's super packed, right?
Right.
Um, but that's kind of like as we think about hip hop approaches, how it's taught, how it's framed in academia. There's some people who just teach hip hop from a social standpoint, right? And rap and the practices are merely just kind of like means to an end, as opposed to like we're going to teach you how to dance, or I'm going to teach you how to play the
Right.
turntable, I'm going to teach you how to beatbox. You're just going to get like theories about its relationship to the criminal justice system, or you're going to get its relationship to urban development, right? I have a guy by the name of Michael Ford, who's an architect who runs the hip hop architecture camp. He's also a member of SOSA, and he teaches kids architecture through hip hop, right? And it's
Dope.
it's very so extracting elements of hip hop culture, which include the music production, the
Right.
rapping. All the
Yeah.
kids rap. They write raps about the world that they want to see, and then he gives them the architectural tools to go build it based off the raps that they wrote. Right. So it's beautiful, amazing ways that people are approaching and using hip hop in a vast way, like you said, but also in a very kind of constrained, focused way. I just
Mm.
choose to teach the techniques of rap, and along the way, you'll get pieces and parts of the hip hop. That's the class at MIT. The class at Johns Hopkins, those and the kids at MIT, they're engineers, math wizards. You know, nuclear. One of my students is a nuclear physicist, and he's super fire. Um,
Right.
he,
Nuclear physics bars.
listen, I'm
Right.
Ask Chilla Jones. Ask Chilla Jones IT. He came in their EO Dub hip hop battle that they did as their final.
Right.
Um, but at Johns Hopkins, the Peabody Institute is a music school. So the kids that are going to Peabody, their goal is to be musicians, right? Their goal is to be piano players, or playing orchestras, or and a big part of the Peabody Institute is their engineering, their music engineering, their computer music, which they've had
That's the,
since like the 70s, right?
mm,
Um, somewhere in that space. But anyway, those kids, their focus is way different. So the cultural part of like that's important, but I need to know these techniques, right?
right.
So the same, yeah, I can come here and learn about the history of the piano, but I need you to teach me how to play it. And we got to make a choice because we only got an hour.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
It's like I how to play the
Gotcha.
piano. Who made the
Right.
piano?
Right.
Uh, so in the class that the bachelor's degree that's there, which is a bachelor's degree in hip hop, it's a 4 year degree. It's a bachelor's
Mm,
degree. I'm basically teaching lessons to people who already know how to rap because the only way that you're getting into the school is you have to audition, right? You have to like apply audition. So you already have to come in knowing how to rap versus at MIT, I'm teaching kids who've never rapped before in their lives,
Right.
right?
got it. Hmm.
Um, the arc behind the Peabody piece is, yeah, they want to go out and become professional artists, professional pieces. And it, it's surrounded by like the Peabodys and people may be ignorant of the extent of what a music degree entails. And at the
Mm,
Peabody, you got to know how to engineer, you got to know how to compose, right? You got to know how to record, you got to know how to do all these things around your craft,
right.
just in case you ever get that job, right? And you
Right.
have to take classes you still take classes at Johns Hopkins, so you still take normal kind of classes. Um, history and English and maybe math and some other things, right?
Yeah.
Um, but then also like you're taking music business courses, right, to kind of prepare you for that. And I'll give you one example because people are kind of like, well, what you gonna do with a rap degree? What you gonna do with a any type of music degree for that matter, right? So
That was my next question. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'll give you an example, and this comes from Yale. I'm a Sabrick fellow at Yale too, so I'm at all three of these institutions at the same time, including SOSA. Um, at Yale, like when you think of like painters, right? When you think of like contemporary painters, right?
Hmm.
New painters, and you think like, dang, I've never heard of this person. How did they get a show at whatever museum, LACMA, right? Or something like that.
Yeah.
And if you do your due diligence and you kind of like see who they are, they're not just some person who was just happened to just throw some shit on the canvas and then somebody saw it and it was like, oh, you need to be in a museum,
Right.
right? The
Right.
same, it never really is like, oh, I just seen dude rapping on the street corner, right? And like, yeah, you need to just go perform at Summer Jam, right?
Right.
It don't work like that. There's a system, right? Um, and so in the fine arts, one of the top schools is Yale School of Fine Arts, like Yale's art school.
Dope.
If you look like a majority of the artists, like painters and sculptors that come out and they're like known and you see their work and it's a thing, if you
Mm,
take like peeks to where they went to school, it'll be like, oh, he went to Yale, right? Or
Mm.
she went to Goldsmiths, or she went to, and there's a whole pipeline of like the artists who make it. And not saying every artist is gonna make it, just like everybody who goes to school for a law degree doesn't necessarily become a lawyer, right?
right.
Um, in the field that they want to be in, you might have went in wanting to be an immigration lawyer, but you turn out being like a trademark lawyer or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, that pipeline of like classroom to gallery is something that the Peabody like has from like classroom to orchestra.
Mm,
You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like classroom to conductor. And
gotcha.
the hope would be, and this is the little pie in the sky kind of theory thing. This is one of the reasons that we started Sosa, was that, and this is for people, and we could talk about it, take shots at it, see what you guys think, see what the crowd thinks. Is
Yeah.
that the people who get deals and who have historically got deals at record companies
Hmm.
or space, that like that took up the space at a record store, you would hope that when you pull that CD off the shelf, that when you listen to that album, that it was the highest quality of what they could produce,
Right.
not compared to anybody else, but just like, is this high quality, like the utmost, or did the person just go in the studio and just hit you with a bunch of lackadaisical, unrefined kind of whatever, and you just spent $20 on that shit? And that's how it used to be,
Right.
right? It's like you
No,
go
that's
get this
true.
and like, man, that shit was whatever. But then you would get other people's albums and that shit would be absolute fire. And then you think like, well, what was the procedure and the process that they went through